This one is almost too strange to make up. In the same week, Microsoft cut nearly 5,000 jobs, and the executive walking away from the division doing the cutting just joined a Federal Reserve task force on AI. You know the type of headline that makes you do a double take. This is that headline. In practice, this sounds simple, it isn't. In theory, layoffs and government appointments should live in separate worlds. Microsoft cut about 4,800 jobs as its Xbox division faced a serious margin crisis. Gaming hardware costs money to build, competition is brutal, and profit margins have been shrinking for a while. So leadership trimmed the team to protect the bottom line. That part is unfortunately familiar. Here is where it gets interesting. The outgoing Xbox CEO did not disappear after the cut. Instead, they joined a brand new Federal Reserve task force built specifically to study how AI is reshaping productivity across the economy. Sitting alongside them on that task force, according to reporting, is venture capitalist Mark Andreessen and Anthropic executive Charles Jones. That is a serious lineup for a serious topic. So why does this feel uncomfortable? Because the same week a division under this executive's leadership was cutting human jobs, they stepped into a role advising the most powerful economic institution in the country on how AI should reshape the workforce going forward. The timing alone raises an obvious question. Is this a conflict, or is this exactly the kind of person policymakers should want in the room? There is a case for both. On one hand, someone who just lived through a real margin crisis and made real staffing decisions has first-hand experience the Fed genuinely needs. Economists can model productivity all day, but someone who actually had to choose which jobs survive brings a different kind of knowledge to the table. On the other hand, critics would point out that the people shaping AI labor policy increasingly come from the same companies cutting jobs because of AI and automation pressure in the first place. That is not exactly a neutral panel. It looks less like outside oversight and more like the industry advising itself on its own impact. This sounds like a small story buried in a longer news roundup, but it is actually a preview of a much bigger pattern. As AI reshapes entire industries, the people best positioned to explain what is happening are often the same people making the decisions that caused it. That overlap is going to keep showing up, not just at Microsoft and not just this year. None of this means the task force is doomed to fail. It might produce genuinely useful guidance, but it is worth watching closely because how AI reshapes the economy will not just be decided in boardrooms, it will be decided by exactly these kinds of appointments quietly while headlines move on to the next story. If stories like this help you make sense of the confusing parts of the AI economy, you already know what to do. Subscribe, because there is always another one of these buried in the news cycle waiting to be explained.